This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
One Sunday afternoon in December 1995, Robert Enke went to the Western Station in Jena and started waiting. The long-distance train from Nuremberg pulled in, passengers got out, and he showed no sign of disappointment when they all walked past him and left the platform. He carried on waiting. 2 hours later, the early evening train from the south arrived. Again, he let all the passengers drift by as if nothing was the matter. It was not the best time of year to be spending half your Sunday waiting for trains in a draughty station, so he decided to go to the cinema until the next train came in. He had turned 18 4 months earlier, an age that excuses almost every kind of willful behavior, and at which, in your opinion, it's other people who are behaving weirdly. On Sunday, Teresa always came back to the high school sports college on the last train from Bad Windsheim. Even in her second year at Jena, she still went to see her parents almost every weekend. She was hurrying out of the icy station when she spotted him on the bench. She sat next to Robert at school. When she, a Bavarian outsider, had arrived in year 12 at the East German Sports College a year and a half earlier, there had only been 2 seats free, one on its own at the back, and one next to Robert. They got on well, she thought, though if she was him, she'd give the haircut a bit of thought. He had already started training with the professional footballers of Carl Zeiss Jena, and wore his fair hair the way they did, short at the sides, long at the top, like a bird's nest on his head. "Hi, what are you doing here?" she asked him. It was after 10 o'clock at night. "I'm waiting for somebody." "Oh, okay. Well, have a nice evening." She smiled at him briefly and hurried on. "Hey!" he cried after her. "You're the one I'm waiting for, obviously." And he'd been waiting for more than 5 hours, he told her a bit later, when they were having a drink in a bar called the French Pub. He was still living with his mother, in the flats on Lieselotte Hermannstrasse, but he hadn't told her or anyone that he was going to go and wait for Teresa at the station. He kept his feelings, his important decisions, all to himself. For weeks afterwards, while he and Teresa were getting closer, he didn't tell his friends a thing. But they weren't surprised when the two of them became a couple, that Robert Enke could achieve that, too. "We still often talk about it," says one of his former school friends, Thorsten Ziegner, about how Robert was this kid with a really sunny nature who managed to do whatever he put his mind to, who couldn't be thrown off track, who was always in a good mood. Thorsten turns his glass of water around in front of him to keep the short silence from getting too big. And for a moment, everyone there in the living room of Andy Meyer, another friend from those days, thinks the same thing. How strange that sounds today, thinking of Robert as a kid with a sunny nature. Although, Andy says at last, speaking bravely into the silence, actually, I still think that, in spite of everything, Enke was a child of joy. The daylight, reflected by the snow and given a glaring quality, falls through the window of the single-family house in Zwetzen, an area of newly built houses just outside Jena. It's 1 in the afternoon, and Andy has just got up. There's still a hint of tiredness in his eyes. He's a nurse and was on night shift. Thorsten's jeans fit loosely. The Gallagher brothers would like his jacket, with its little diamonds and its stand-up collar. He's a professional footballer, a slender, wiry athlete, and at 32 he's back with FC Carl Zeiss Jena in the 3rd Liga. You see Andy and Thorsten in their early 30s, and you immediately sense the warmth, the humour of those youthful times. We realized immediately that we had the same interests, or rather the same disinterests, says Thorsten. More than anything else, adds Andy. We laughed. It was always the 4 of them in those days, Thorsten Ziegner, Andy Meyer, Mario Canopa, who went off to be a teacher on the Dutch border, and Robert Enke, who they called Enkus, who they go on calling Enkus, because, as far as they're concerned, he's still the person he used to be. Robert grew up among clotheslines. He and his friends met in the courtyards of the flats in the afternoon. Over the Line was the name of the game on the estate. He would stand in goal between two clothes props and lob the ball over to his partner, who would then volley the ball at the goal.